been thinking about something lately and I wanted to talk about it today. And that is, with off-grid building, one of the biggest challenges is power. And a lot of my videos are done on power, right? Power stations, off-grid power, I do it all. But what about the tools we use? I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I built much of my cabin with corded power tools. Though I did have some cordless power tools, they were just drills typically, right? The occasional jigsaw use or sawzall, even a small skill saw. But quite frankly, most of my tools are powered tools, and I used a generator. But what if there was a better way? Well, I think today there is. I think that battery-powered power tools are the way to go. The advances they've made is fantastic, and I got one I want to show you today because, honestly, it never occurred to me that one of these would be helpful. So let's take a look at this. This is the Linknal battery-powered brad nailer. This brad nailer comes in a pretty cool box. This is a hard shell plastic shell box. Comes with, you know, your usual book. And it's actually pretty nicely packaged, folks. So you've got your standard brad nailer, which you might have seen me using up here. And yes, I face nailed those. They're not actually tongue and groove. They're just cut 45s and slapped in place. This is normally my planing room and my sanding room. And I decided to finish it with some pine that I made on my sawmill just because, well, why not? And I will get that done. As you can see, I'm standing, so the back is improving. But let's take a look at this. Comes with a charger. Well, of course it does. It's battery powered, right? You've got two 20-volt, 2-amp-hour batteries. They even throw in some safety glasses. Well, I don't need those. And they throw in some brad nails. To load this up, it's pretty much standard brad nailer stuff. Pull the trigger, pop this out, put your brad nails in, you're good to go. Throw on a battery, and I'll be honest with you. As I said, off-grid building, nothing better than battery-powered tools you could charge up on your solar power or on your power station. Why not, right? So does it work very well? Well, I used it to put this up. That's pretty good. Now, let me grab a piece of wood. I want to try something. Now, again, this is all about off-grid building, but let's try this out. Now, that's a bunch of rapid fire. You can see almost all of them went through. I did have some that didn't. Now, that's with the trigger pull and not releasing. So if I press, they all went through perfectly fine. So that's pretty fast firing, and I wasn't sure if it would fire that fast, but I'm impressed. This little nailer does a good job. Simple, seems pretty rugged, comes in a nice case, even has a belt hook attached to it that, well, I didn't use. Now, I will tell you that when we were out at the cabin working, I brought this out, and quite frankly, compressors take up a lot of power. I did run a compressor off of my AFRI power station, which is a 2400 watt inverter with a 2048 watt hour battery. It ran great, but quite frankly, running a compressor takes an awful lot of power. It runs for 10 or 15 minutes straight, pulling 800 plus watts. That's a pretty big power drain. Now, 2-amp-hour battery is a 40 watt battery. Those are easy to recharge, and as much as I've used this nailer, which I used it to nail a couple boards up here, we actually did the trim around the door at the cabin with it. Worked great. And one of the things my buddy Robert said is, he said, you know, this is a really slick tool. There's no need for a hose that you're dragging all over the place and tripping on and getting bound up on. It really doesn't use a lot of power. So it's handy. I gotta say, from an off-grid building perspective, if you're looking for a small brad nailer, I think this little Linknal brad nailer is a great tool. I will tell you though, there's one con, and that is that the maximum brad nail size is 1 3/8 inches. When I went to a big box store and tried to buy 1 3/8 inches brad nails, well, they didn't have them. They were 1 1/4 inches, 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 inches, 1 inch, and so on. Well, I mean, 1 1/4 inches is okay if you're doing 1/2 inch paneling, but if you're gonna get into, like, say, 3/4 inch paneling, it might be okay, but you're starting to push it, and you definitely shouldn't face nail. Then I would, if you're doing tongue and groove, of course you don't anyway, so you'd probably be okay, but I prefer 1.5 inches. I did do a lot of 1 1/4 inches on my tongue and groove. It worked fine with 1/2 inch tongue and groove, but again, 3/4, and a 1.5 inches, I think. So I think Linknal, that's something that you should fix. You should make this brad nailer for 1.5" nails, not 1 3/8. And I don't even know where you buy 1 3/8 brad nails, frankly. I guess you could probably get them on Amazon. They're 18 gauge. This thing works great. I'm really impressed with it. It's got a little bit of weight, couple pounds, nothing serious though, but it definitely seems like a solid, decent piece of equipment. It feels like metal. I think they did a good job with this. So I would tell you, if you're looking for a small brad nailer, this is a nice little tool. And if you're using it for paneling and that kind of stuff off grid, it's even better because these batteries don't take much to charge up at all. Slip right in and away you go. It's a great little tool. Now there's one thing I want to say about these kind of nailers, especially these kind that once that nose is depressed, you can shoot them, right? I just shot a nail right over there into the wall. This is actually an important safety lesson that I don't think people know. I started using air nailers back in 1991, fall of 91. And in the fall of 91, I nailed my hand like this with a 3.5" spike, or 3 1/4, whatever they were. I literally had only 1/2 inch of a nail sticking out of my hand. It wasn't fun. So how did I do it? And it has something to do with these trigger noses where you can pull and hold the trigger and it'll go bump, bump, bump and fire. A lot of the newer ones won't do that. I personally like this feature, but I want to point out a safety issue that people need to pay attention to. And that is that when you're using one of these guys, let me see if I could do this here. So I'm going to show you this. This is dangerous, but I think it's really important to show you. Let's move this out of the way. Don't grab the nail end of the board that you just nailed. All right, so if I were to take this and depress this nail head, the trigger, the safety part, did you hear that? It shot right across the top of this piece of wood. Put holes in your hand if you touch it wrong. So why am I telling you this? What I've seen people do with nailers, with these, whether they're pneumatic nailers or whether they're electric impact nailers. I was watching Ambition Strikes. They've got a great YouTube channel. And when they were nailing, they were going down, nailing the studs into a base plate, and they would go top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom down the line. You don't want to do that. That's how I nailed myself. What happened was I was going down a base plate, and I was nailing studs in and had my hand about 1.5 feet away from the nailer, and I would go top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom down the line, and one time I missed on the top. The nose depressed. I had my finger on the trigger because I was going bump, 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 bump like that. I was holding here, trigger was down, hit that base plate, and the nail shot right across the top of the stud and nailed my hand. So if you're going to use one of these, which, like the Linknal, a lot of them do this. Once that safety is depressed, you see it right here, then you can pull the trigger and it'll shoot a nail out, or a brad nail in this case. You don't want to shoot that nail at your hand or it's going to go in your hand. So what I recommend is that you go holding the stud, bottom, let go, top, bottom, top, bottom, top. Sounds silly, but I've got a hole in my hand to prove that it really isn't silly. It's something to pay attention to. So that's your safety PSA on these brad nailers and other nailers that are like this one. All in all, I would say this Linknal brad nailer is a great little nailer. I really like it. And for off-grid building, any power tools that I can just run off of a battery like this, that I can recharge on my solar, whether it's with a power station and a solar panel, or whether it's just off my cabin power. And of course, when I was building, I didn't have power, so I had to use a generator. Well, you have to run a generator constantly to keep a compressor with the pressure up so that you can run your nailers at 90 pounds or whatever you need. These don't need that, which means you're not going to be running your generator all day long. You're going to be out there building and not wasting fuel. When the battery dies, you take the battery out, put it on the charger, put it on your power station, slap the other battery in, and away you go. By the time you wear that battery out, the first one will be nice and charged up for you, and you're good to go. So I will drop a link below for you to check this out if you're interested, and thank you, Linknal, for sponsoring this. Great little nailer. I am going to use the heck out of it, and you guys will see me using it as I finish this room. Now that my back's doing a little bit better, I could be on my feet long enough to start planing boards and turning them into some more paneling. So for now, folks, that's all I've got. I'll drop another video right here for you to check out. I appreciate you watching, folks. You all have a great day. The old Jarhead out.